What's up, people? Welcome back to another episode of Stars and Garters. I'm Katie Pettit, and I told you that I wanted to make more Fire Emblem Three Houses content on this podcast, so here it is. I know that I said in, I think probably I'm pretty sure I said this either in the ranking death quotes episode or the what who you married says about you episode. And one of those I said that I was only going to do this episode once I had played through all of the routes that are available in this game, but I decided to not do that because I think since there's 4 routes, I'm gonna just split it into one episode for 2 and one episode for the other 2 that I haven't played yet. And I've also just been like I've been playing a lot of Three Hopes actually, which is not this game. It's the spin-off, or it's definitely not a sequel or a prequel. It's like alternate universe spin-off from this game. It's wild. I'm definitely gonna make an episode about that. But so I've been like thinking about this game a lot, and so I just decided to go ahead and do the 2 routes that I've already played through. So basically, what I'll be doing is I'll be going through the story of the routes and just talking about what was in the story and comparing how they are different, how the endings are different, how the people that you fight are different, and then I'll just go ahead and decide which route. I said route before, now I said route. I don't really know what pronunciation I'm gonna use, but go ahead and decide which one I liked better. So the first route that I played when I got this game was the Golden Deer. So, which that was mainly because from what I had seen before I got the game was like a lot of Claude being a meme, a lot of upside down Claude on the internet, and just in general, I thought Claude looked pretty great. And then when I actually got to the part of the game before you choose a house, which is like one level, but even that, I liked Claude way more than the other 2 house leaders. He's just like not so he's way more easygoing, way more chill, way more normal of a dude, and way more fun than the other 2. So I went ahead and chose the Golden Deer, not knowing much about the other characters except Leonie. I looked into Leonie a little bit because she seemed like the archetype of character that I liked. So I knew a little bit about her, but it was mostly based on Claude just seeming like a really cool and really fun dude and the type of character that I could very easily get into. So I went ahead and chose the Golden Deer. Um, it wasn't really hard. I kind of knew that I was gonna go with the Golden Deer first because the other 2 have some issues, and the Golden Deer is just generally a little bit more lighthearted. So for the first playthrough, that's what we went with. So for all of the routes, they all start out. The battles are all the same. So all the enemies that you go and fight are the same. At least for these 2 routes that I'm comparing. It would make sense for it to get changed up in the next routes, but I don't know. So, but I know for these 2 battles, at least these 2 routes, at least the battles are the same. Now you get like a cutscene. You get cutscenes in between them, and obviously the characters are different in each house, so the cutscenes are different, and it makes the story different. But essentially, Byleth, the main hero, or as I named her in this. No, I think I actually kept her name Byleth in the Golden Deer, so good job me. I definitely didn't in the Blue Lions. I made a poor decision there, but we're not talking about that right now. So, Byleth is a mercenary, and she and her dad, who is also a mercenary, happen to be near this camp that gets attacked, and it happens to be Edelgard, Dimitri, and Claude's camp. And so Byleth gets kind of she jumps in. Her and her dad jump in to help the situation and defeat the bandits that are attacking the kids. And they happen to be from a place called Garreg Mach Monastery, and they happen to be studying at the Officers Academy. And Geralt, it turns out, Byleth's dad, used to work at Garreg Mach as a knight. He used to be part of the Knights of Saros, and he used to be like really famous for it. So he meets his old buddy Alois, and eventually he gets recruited to come back and help out at the monastery, and with him, so does Byleth. So, yeah, that's how this whole thing gets started. So Byleth goes and is set up to be a professor, and you get to pick your house, and then, so yeah, after that, all the same missions, but you just get to know the students in between and see how they react. So the first half, the academy phase, mostly focuses on fighting the Scarlet. No, not the Scarlet. The Flame Emperor. That's what it's called. The Flame Emperor. I always forgot. I was struggling to remember her name when I was writing this. But yes, you fight the Flame Emperor, who is trying to attack the church and cause war and do all that fun stuff, and they keep creating problems, so you have to go fight them. And then also the Death Knight, who is working with the Flame Emperor. But those are the two big baddies at first, and then they are also working with some creepy zombie-looking people who pop up. They are disguised as people who work in the monastery. Tomas and then a old student named Monica. They both turn out to be a whole nother set of bad guys that are also working with the Flame Emperor and the Death Knight. And you're fighting those people as they try to start wars and do bad things in general. So one thing that happens, like one big moment that happens for all the roots, is that this student named Flane, or Fish as I call her, gets kidnapped, and as you're trying to find her, you find this other student named Monica with her, and Monica turns out to be a bad guy, as I said, named Kranya, and when she reveals this, she kills Geralt, Byleth's dad, and so that is sad. I mean, doesn't really affect anyone else as it doesn't do too much to the plot other than just making Byleth a little less of a tofu brick of a person, so that's good. But it's a pretty important moment, even though it doesn't necessarily do something super big to the plot in as a whole. For Byleth it does, but for as a whole, not that much. But everything in the academy phase comes. So you fight the Flame Emperor in this big battle, and then it's revealed that, spoilers, the Flame Emperor is actually Edelgard, the leader of the Black Eagles, and a fellow student at Garreg Mach, which is very sad and very surprising, because it means she murdered a lot of people, and she's like 17, so that's all good and well. But so you find out that Edelgard hates Garreg Mach, she hates the Western Church, and she hates Rhea and everything about that whole deal that's going on, so she just wants to like burn it down. So at the end of the academy phase, she goes and just attacks the church, goes like full on assault, and you have to fight her off. So at the end of that, Byleth falls into a pit and goes to sleep for 5 years, and that's where the roots split a lot more. So obviously it comes back when she wakes up after 5 years, and she finds out in the Golden Deer route, or it kind of starts the same for the Golden Deer and the Blue Lions, but she finds out that like Garreg Mach has been devastated and the war is happening and everything's not doing too great. So with the Golden Deer, she wakes up, she goes into the monastery looking around, and she finds Claude. So a big difference between these two routes already is that when you find Claude, he is still very much Claude. He gives you a nice, big, warm smile. He walks up to you. He acts like he saw you yesterday, and everything's perfectly normal. And he kind of fills you in more on what's been happening. He's obviously 5 years older, and so he's a lot more in charge of his country, which is called the Leicester Alliance. So he kind of fills you in on that stuff, and you get to see him. And you happen to have woken up on the day when you had promised your class that you were going to all meet together again, but none of your classes showed up because stuff has happened. But then you and Claude go out together to stop some thieves, and it turns out that all of your classmates happen to pop up and be there as well. So that's nice and convenient. So then you all get together, you set up your operations at Garag Mach, and you decide that you are going to take down the Empire, which is Edelgard's whole business that she's running over there that's trying to kill the church. So, interestingly, throughout this route, you actually work with the Church of Saros a lot. Through most of the route, you're working with them to take down Edelgard. So you do that as well with the Blue Lions, but it makes a lot more sense to the Blue Lions because their kingdom, Fargus, is a lot more connected to the church, whereas Claude actually has a lot of problems with it as well and agrees on with a lot of things Edelgard thinks. Because Rhea is like a dictator and they execute people for random stuff, and they are very tyrannical, and he has a lot of problems with that, obviously, but he obviously does not approve of Edelgard's methods because she's kind of just kill anything and everything until the church is gone. So he actually does work with the church to stop her. And it's so throughout this, it's you're fighting Edelgard kind of out of necessity, and there's not for the characters, for the kids in the Golden Deer and the Lesser Alliance, they are doing it because it's there's not as much personal stake in it. They're just in a war and they're against this side because that's who their allegiance lies with, and it's not as personal as with the Blue Lions. But after you beat Edelgard, and this does not happen in the Blue Lions at all. Once you've beaten Edelgard in the Golden Deer route, which I did not know at first, which was quite a surprise for me, unfortunately. But you find out that you get a letter from Edelgard's right-hand man, Hubert, and you find out that she was not the main guy actually running this whole operation. She was being kind of used a little bit and kind of also working in conjunction with a group called Those Who Slither in the Dark. So Those Who Slither in the Dark are essentially a bunch of undead drama queens, and they are they are complicated in lore, and I still don't exactly understand, but they are responsible in a lot of ways for the somehow they're responsible in a lot of ways for the class and problems a lot of the problems that are going on in Fodlan that Edelgard was trying to stop, and the church is what's the word, propagating? I don't know if that's the right word, but they are somehow responsible for a lot of that. So obviously Claude is if we beat Those Who Slither in the Dark, then we should be able to kind of take back the world and end all the racism. So your last two battles are against Those Who Slither in the Dark. You take on kind of the main boss's right hand man, kind of, I guess, named Talus. I don't know. I forgot how the name was pronounced, but some undead drama queen name, and you beat him in their base of operations, and then the main guy, Nemesis, who is an old undead zombie king, he comes out, he brings the 10 elites, I believe, out with him, so you have to beat all of them, and then you have to beat Nemesis, and Claude Claude does a very Claude thing in the end. Once you've beaten him, he makes a big speech about how he's about to end racism, and he shoots an arrow into the sky. And then Byleth comes and swords Nemesis for a little bit, and then the arrow comes down on him, and then Byleth slashes him, and then he dies, and then racism is over. So it does sound is a little different, but it is kind of the only happy ending that happens in this game, so I'm told. Blue Lions definitely was not exactly a happy ending, and I cannot possibly see how Edelgard's route could possibly end happily. So I'm pretty sure it's the only happy ending you get, because since the students have not had a lot of personal stock in the war and where it started, like with Edelgard, they haven't really had to sacrifice too much, which it could be a not as cool story point, but it does make for a lot more of a lighthearted and happier ending. So you haven't really lost that much, and you have beaten everyone you need to beat to get kind of like the world that Claude has been looking for, with none of the racism. So you get to go with Claude and your students of the Leicester Alliance, and you get to go and be in charge of the racist world. So that's how that ends. Honestly, even though it sounds goofy, and it is a little goofy, I mean, it's like it's a JRPG, so what do you want? But it was a pretty like satisfying ending. You beat all the guys you need to beat, and you don't feel like, oh, well, I guess I could be happy that I did half of the work, but now there's a whole part of the story that I guess I don't ever get to see. But you kind of feel like you got to see everything that you needed to see, and you went and you beat all the guys you need to beat. And then also, besides the main story ending, you get character endings based on who you like did supports with, and so that's also really helpful for feeling like the like a whole conclusive, nice, satisfying ending. Because, and it also helped a lot since these characters didn't have as much stake in the story. It helps with their relationships with each other, and that kind of stuff makes it a lot more like makes you able to care about them since they don't have that big personal stake in the story. So I think for me, the so Leonie and Lawrence ended up together, which I did not like at first, because I did not like Lawrence, and honestly, I was just like going through all the supports so you can so it works. The supports, I feel like a lot of you might not know how they work, but it goes, you can do C support, B support, A support, and then some, if you're Byleth, you have some S supports. But whoever your students have the highest support level with is who they get their ending with. And supports are just little kind of mini cutscene conversations that help your characters just get to know one another better. So Leonie is this hunter girl of the Lesser Alliance. She wants to be a mercenary. She loves Geralt, and she really likes Geralt a lot. She wants to be a great mercenary, and that's pretty much it. And then Lorenz is a very high-ranking noble who thinks he is a very high-ranking noble, and thinks that you should know he's a very high-ranking noble, and is awful, and I hate him a lot. But I was just playing through all the supports, and I just did all of them, and he happens to have the highest support, the most amount of supports that you can get, he has with Leonie. So that was unfortunate, but it's said in their ending that she became like his, I don't know what exactly his position was, but essentially his like queen, and they ruled their territory together, and they like strengthened relationships between commoners and nobles. So I guess that's good. I don't know how he got to that point, because even though the supports did explain it a little bit, I just don't like him. and he seems too stuck up to do that. But I guess Leone doing that makes sense, so I was okay with that. The one I was actually really happy with was it ended up uh, where Claude actually married Lysithea, who Lysithea is the youngest student at Garrigmach. She is a noble. She's with one of the houses, from one of the houses in the Leicester Alliance from House Ordelia, and she's like really smart and an absolute walking nuke, just gameplay wise. She's pretty fragile, but like her crits do like 200 damage sometimes, which is pretty nice. And she can like beat the Death Knight single handedly, which is like really good if you don't know. So anyway, Lysithea is really smart, but she also is very like rushed, and she seems too busy for anyone, and she's a little bratty, but she has this thing where she's like been experimented on, and she has a shortened lifespan, so she's kind of trying to accomplish a lot before she dies. But with her paired ending with Claude, he apparently rebukes his like dukeship, which he is. He's Duke Regan, because their whole thing, there's no like, it's not like kings and stuff. It's like a duke because it's alliance, and it's, I don't know exactly how the politics works, but he rebukes rebukes his position, whatever authority position he has, and he goes and finds a cure for Lysithea's early dying syndrome. I don't know, and they get married together, and that's nice, because then you still have Byleth to rule the new and improved Fodlan, so that's really nice. And then I think I married Byleth off to Felix, which I ended up regretting a lot because it felt wrong. So you can recruit students from other houses throughout your playthrough in the academy phase. So I recruited Sylvain from the Blue Lions, because all you have to do to get him is be the female Byleth. So I went ahead and got him because I mean he's available, and then I recruited Felix as well because he's sarcastic and has cool hair. So actually, so with Byleth, it's not just the highest support level. You can choose anyone who you've gotten up to, and well, the S support is the last support. How you can choose to marry anyone you've gotten to the highest support level, and I had gotten, since I was watching all the cutscenes, I had gotten all the highest support levels, so I could choose any of the guys that I wanted, and I felt really bad for choosing someone not from the house, because that kind of felt wrong, because Felix was just there because I made him be there, and I can't even remember his like story-wise reasoning that they put in there, but it felt kind of wrong after that, because I was like, oh, I should have married someone who's actually part of this new kingdom that she's going to rule. So that's, maybe I should have done that. But my options were Claude, Raphael, Ignatz, or Lorenz. And 3 of those are not options. And for some reason, I didn't go with Claude, which I feel was not a good choice. But I went with Felix, because I don't know, I ended up liking him as a character more in that moment for some reason, and I regret it deeply. Because I feel like I really should have went with someone who was actually from the country of the playthrough. That just, but the choices were made, and those are the endings that I ended up with. And then everyone else in the house was alone because I didn't pay too much attention to how supports worked. So that was nice, but they all ended up, it was all again pretty happy endings, because of defeating Nemesis and Edelgard, you were under this nice new Fodlan, so they all got to go and do good things and not have problems. So it was all pretty good in the end. There was not much conflicting feelings. It was just like, all right, we're good to go. I don't really like need to see what else they do, and the game felt like good, satisfying. We're good. We did it. Yay. And it's over. So, all in all, I really, really enjoyed it. I liked, I'm not gonna say I liked all the characters, but I still liked seeing them, grow and stuff through the sports and through the story, and them not all thinking like Claude. Some of them, like, more agreed with Edelgard, or some of them were more closely connected to the church, and it was all different viewpoints, and you still get to see them like grow throughout the story and be reacting to all the stuff. Um, but and I like that. But I also did really like some of the characters, because I really like Claude, I really like Leonie, and I came to really like Lysithea because she ended up not just being bratty. She's also really intelligent, and she has a reason for being bratty and all that stuff. So in the end, it was really enjoyable, and I liked the story a lot just because it was fun to play through. It was pretty basic. There was some like complicated, not super complicated, but some slightly complicated lore thrown in near the end, because you find Rhea, who has been missing for a long time, and she just spills like, okay, so here's the stuff. Here's how those who slither in the dark kind of exist, and uh, you learn a lot of stuff there, and that was a little confusing, but most of it is just straightforward. Like, you're a country in a war. This is your position, and this is what you are doing, and it was very fun and satisfying to play through. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed that a lot. But now we will talk about the other route that I played through, the Blue Lions, which just, I really didn't know how different the routes were going to be. I thought it would just be like, okay, the characters are different, but like, you gotta fight the same people. It's all going to be, that stuff. But, so the main thing that made the the Blue Lions route so different was because the students in the Blue Lions are much more connected to the story, and like have a lot more personal stuff going on. Specifically Dimitri, but also the other students have a lot going on. And they also have a suspicious amount of, even in the academy phase, a lot of the enemies are like their family members. So you have Ash's adopted dad. So sad, by the way, because we love Ash, just poor little pure boy. But his adopted dad rebels against the church because they executed his son for bad reasons. And you have to kill him. And of course, I made Ash be the one to actually kill him because I am such a good person like that. And then you have to fight Sylvain's brother, who wants to get one of these big fancy weapons called a hero's relic, but only people who have these things called crests, which are basically like some things that some people have and some people don't, and they give you some extra fancy little things that you can do, superpowers essentially. But he doesn't have one, so he ends up turning into a monster, and then you have to fight him. But it's okay because Sylvain didn't like him, and yes, I made Sylvain kill him as well, because again, good person. And then so Edelgard is again the main villain of the story, because and even more so for the Blue Lions, because they are like actually allied and more closely connected with the church, so they are more concerned with defending it and beating Edelgard. But also Dimitri himself is very closely connected with Edelgard, because first of all, it is revealed that they are step siblings, so that's pretty important. But they've known each other for forever, and they have, a relationship, and they're good friends. So, and also Dimitri is already not in a great mental state from the very beginning of this game because of events before the game that are explained. But he doesn't really. You find all of the things that happened to him out, I think, like, not in the academy phase. Like, you don't really know too much about it, and you find out a lot more in the war phase. So Dimitri is not in a great mental state in any part of this game except for the end, but he hides it well in the academy phase, but he's not actually doing well because when he was really young, there was this thing in Fargus, so mostly like, connected to the Blue Lion students. A lot of them were like directly involved in or affected by this. There's this thing that happened. I'm pretty sure it's called the Tragedy of Dusker, I believe. But basically, like, all the people died. Like, all the people died. So Dimitri's dad, Dimitri's mom, a lot of all of Dimitri's family, essentially, all of Dedu's family, Felix's brother, who is also Ingrid's fiance. So just a lot of trauma there. A lot of trauma with Dimitri, what with seeing his dad beheaded at, like, I don't know, 6. So he's not in a good place currently. He secretly really likes violence, and he loves just killing bad people, and it makes him feel good, and he loves killing a lot. He's a big fan of killing. And he doesn't show that through the academy phase, but when it is revealed that Edelgard is the Flame Emperor, the guy you've been fighting this whole time. Uh, with the Golden Deer, it wasn't too much. It was like a big reveal, but it wasn't a huge. It wasn't as huge of a deal that it was in the Blue Lions, because for Dimitri, this is the breaking point, because he. It's pretty funny, actually. I mean, it shouldn't be funny. It's funny in like, oh, it's funny in a way that it probably shouldn't be, because you get a whole cutscenes if you're doing cutscenes. You get a whole cutscene if you're doing Blue Lions, where Dimitri, you see like Edelgard's mask has been knocked off, and you see her face, and then Dimitri is just kind of standing to the side with his head down, and he's like shaking, and so you can't see his face though. And so I was playing it, I'm watching this cutscene, and I was like, oh, Dimmy, you good, buddy? And then he just throws his head back and starts laughing like a maniac, and it's like, oh no, he is not actually okay. Demi is struggling, and he uh probably proceeds to go and murder all of the guards very viciously and very excitedly. Murder all of the guards around Edelgard, and then but Edelgard does get away. And so after that, from this point until another story point that we'll get to later, he is like pretty, he's pretty broken. He's a little messed up. He's kind of psychopathic, real into killing, and not making any attempt to hide it anymore. He's just mentally bad. So the whole battle of Garreg Mach happens, you fall into the pit, and you come back 5 years later, go into the monastery, and unlike Claude, who was like, hey, I'm so glad you're not dead, and here's what's happening. Dimitri is in the process of murdering, as he would be when you find him, and he is not happy to see you, and he does not want to talk to you, because he's grumpy. But you do end up going and fighting some probably bandits or thieves after you first wake up with him, and then your whole class comes and you reunite, and then you set up a Garreg Mach, just like Golden Deer, and you decide to get ready to do some war with the Empire. But like Dimitri, he's just like, let me go kill people. I want to go, like, everything that he adds to every cutscene where they're discussing like battle strategies, he's just like, let me go and kill people, please. Except he does not say please, because he's angry, and he doesn't say much if you go and try to talk to him during the times where you can just run throughout the monastery and talk to people. You can't even like further any supports with anyone, because he's all about murder. Like, that's his thing right now. He is into murder. So all of his friends are all worried about him, and he has this old guy helping us named Gilbert, who's actually Annette's dad. Annette's another student, so you have Gilbert helping out. I don't like Gilbert, but Gilbert knew Dimitri and has known Dimitri for a long time, so he's trying to snap him out. And then a few chapters in, to help with the war, you go and meet this guy, citizen, I guess, of Fargus. Is that how monarchies work? Are they still citizens? I don't know. And I feel like I should, but I don't. But so you meet this guy Rodrigue, who is Felix's dad. But so Felix, Sylvain, Ingrid, and Dimitri were all childhood friends. So Rodrigue is very close friends with Dimitri's dad. So he's also very close to Dimitri. He's kind of like another father figure for Dimitri. And so you meet Rodrigue, and he's obviously very worried about Dimitri. Every cutscene, he's trying to talk some sense into Dimitri. Dimitri is not having it. He's not really caring about anything, and doesn't care that it's his old friend, his dad's old friend. He's just like, whatever, let's go kill the people. Because he's just in his trauma real deep right now. So the big thing that happens next is in this battle, there's this enemy commander named Randolph, which is for some reason a hilarious name to me, and I always laugh at him when I see him. But I digress. You beat this enemy commander named Randolph, and you capture him, and Dimitri, since he's going through his goth phase, he has Randolph, and he's like, I'm going to slowly pull out your intestines through your mouth as you die, slow and painful. And then Violet is like, no, Dimitri, and just stabs him. So you kill Randolph, is the moral of that story. And then Randolph's sister, Fleisch, who I call Flesh, because her name freaking sounds like flesh. It's not a good name. But anyway, his sister does not really love you killing her brother. So she goes and does her own, well, I think she actually, in this one, because she's also in Three Hopes, so I'm trying not to get the stories crossed. But in this one, she kind of tricks you, and she tricks Rodrigue into thinking that she's like alone, not connected to any country soldier, and she's like, I want to go help with the war. And then while you're doing the next battle, she sneaks up on Dimitri while he is injured, and she tries to stab him, but then Rodrigue gets in the way, and she stabs Rodrigue instead, and then you kill Fleisch, and then Rodrigue dies in Dimitri's arms, which is more traumatic for Dimitri, and surprisingly, that is not immediately what helps him get better. It just kind of gives him some more trauma, and he's like, whatever, I don't care, let's just go kill some more people. And but it does give you an opening, and Byleth kind of is able to use it to be like, okay, we need to not be this way anymore. You need to get back to the reality. And so Rodrigue's death does eventually give Byleth this opening, and she is able to talk to Dimitri, and he kind of, he as much as he can, in the moment, he kind of is able to deal with his trauma, and he's like, oh, maybe I don't have to kill all the people. Because here's so his whole thing, like, he actually has some really deep-seated psychological trauma. Like, he hears voices of, like, his dad and his mom and all the people who've died before him. He, like, hears their voices, and he thinks they're telling him to get revenge for them. But he's able to, like, talk about that with Byleth and be like, oh, okay, so maybe that's not, like, a thing that is actually happening. And so Dimitri comes back, and he is not exactly himself he's not exactly like the personality that he was from the academy phase, but in a good way, because the academy phase he was like super polite and like more not exactly cheerful, but not like, he's just easy, he's a little more not sad, but in a good way. Like the new Dimitri, when you fix his like psychoticness, he's just really sad, and he realizes that he's not been doing good things for a while now. So, but he is in his capital, I think, is where it happens, which would be Deirdre. I can't pronounce half of these names, but would be, I think it's Deirdre. But so he is technically like the king of Fargus, I believe, and so like he goes up, and all his friends are like, you need, since you're like back now, the people kind of need you to like be the king right now and step up and lead. And so he goes up, and it's very nice because like he sees that all the people actually want him to be king, and they're all like welcoming him back. So that helps him a lot, and he gets way more back to his old self. He still has like issues, and he's like really sad a lot of the time, but he's not psychotic, and he's not into murdering anymore. He just wants the war to end, and he um also has gotten over his really intense and a little bit traumatizing obsession with killing Edelgard, because he was like, Edelgard is the source of all of these problems that have started, and he always wants to talk about the creative ways he is thinking about murdering Edelgard, but he's over that now, so that's quite nice. um, so yeah, he gets welcomed back as king, and it's a really nice moment, and he kind of gets back into his old self. Um, Interesting part of the uh, Blue Lions route is that in a later chapter, after he gets back to being king, you have to answer a help call, a call for help from the Alliance, the Leicester Alliance, Claude's territory. And so when you help Claude and their army, who are also fighting the Empire, when you help them out, Claude, he like he kind of escapes, and he goes off and he leaves to do some of his own business, which probably means he's like trying to end racism, I guess. But we don't. If you're in this route, you don't get to see him do that. But he leaves, and he gives you his bow, and then he goes on his merry way, and you don't see him again for that route, which is really interesting because in the Blue Lion or the Golden Deer route, you of course you had to kill Edelgard, and then Dimitri does die in that route. He is killed by the Empire, and it's sad because I didn't really figure that out until the route had ended, because it was like, yeah, I saw Dimitri die, and I was like, sure you did, he's coming back. And then I was like, oh, he did not come back. I should have been sad about this way before, but I was not. But so Dimitri and then Edelgard obviously both die on that route. On the Black Eagles route, like, since Edelgard is like kill everyone, and Claude and Dimitri against that, pretty sure you have to kill Claude and Dimitri. So I'm pretty sure that this is like the only route where you like both of the other house leaders don't have to die. So you don't know what's happened to Claude. He could have died, but you don't like see him die, and you do obviously have to kill Edelgard. But it's quite interesting because other than that, the Blue Lions is like pretty dark and unfortunate. But both of the house leaders don't die, so that was actually really nice. I was really glad that we didn't have to kill Claude, because I don't want to do that, and I'm kind of dreading playing through the Black Eagles because I know that you have to kill Claude, which is unfortunate. But yes, so yeah, you send Claude off, and you help the Alliance get them out of trouble. Um, and then as it gets to the end, the last battle is obviously against Edelgard herself, and she is so like confident and wrapped up in what she's trying to do that she does something. I'm not sure exactly what she does to get this to happen, but she turns into a big ugly, like there should be another word to express how not pleasant to look at this thing was, but she turns into a big ugly monster that can shoot magic fireballs and is just generally OP. I think they called it Hegemon? Like Hegemon Edelgard? It sounds like a Japanese word or something, but I can't pronounce it. But it basically means big ugly monster Edelgard. So Dimitri's like, oh dang, like you're in this pretty deep if you're willing to do that. So you go through all of the last battle, and you get to Edelgard, and if you beat Edelgard, the last cutscene of that route is so sad, because since Dimitri is better now and he's not obsessed with killing Edelgard, she is, obviously, like he could. So when you get to the cutscene, you've beaten her, so he is like he could very easily just kill her and end it, but he tries to like extend a hand to her because they still have connections, and so she pretends to reach for it, but she is not actually having that because she's too convinced of what she's doing. So she actually tries to stab Dimitri. Also, she tries to stab him with a dagger that Dimitri gave to her as kids. So that was not a great moment for Dimitri, I'm sure. So she tries to stab Dimitri, so obviously Dimitri has to stab her and kill her. And then they have to walk off, and then Byleth and Dimitri walk off together, and Dimitri does not look back. He doesn't even take the dagger. I kind of wish he had taken the dagger, but he doesn't even take the dagger. He just walks off, and I don't know what happened to Ray at this point, but somehow Byleth becomes the new archbishop, which was what Rhea was. So she becomes the new archbishop and supposedly probably was a lot less tyrannical than Rhea and put some new positions in place. So for most of Fodlan, it is a pretty happy ending, but for the player, aka me, it was super bittersweet and sad in a lot of ways, just because the characters have at this point lost way more than the Golden Deer, because they all were like, especially like Dimitri's connection is what really helped. It was like very personally involved and went through a lot of stuff in this story. So it was kind of sad, but like in the end, it was a good ending, and the things you've helped Fodlan, and things are a lot better now. But it's also a lot of sad things have happened at this point. As for the separate character endings, I did thankfully. So the only character I recruited from another house was Leonie. So Leonie was along for the ride with the Blue Lions, but I did marry a character from the actual like country that I was fighting for. So that was smart of me. I did end up marrying Ash. I could probably do a whole video just about Ash. Ash is a good boy. Ash is truly a good boy. But that's like, he's I went with him because he's like the only thing that in the Blue Lions that really comes close to a sane person, to like a mentally stable human being, because like they all have trauma or daddy issues or other things. And Ash is an orphan who had to fight against his adopted dad. He has like backgrounds as a thief, but he is still like the goodest boy, and he is very nice and hardworking and dedicated, and does not have all this baggage because of all the things that have happened to him. He's just a good boyo. So I went ahead and married Ash, and you get Byleth marries Ash. Byleth is the archbishop, and Ash serves as a knight for her, and together they help end homelessness a little bit. So that's all good and well. And then who else? So Dimitri is obviously still king of Fargus. I had Dimitri marry Annette because I don't know why. She was the only, like, I don't know. I really wanted Mercedes to be alone, and I could tolerate Annette. But I liked Ingrid better, so I gave Ingrid to Sylvain, who I like better than Dimitri. But Dimitri's okay, so I gave him the other girl that was okay. So, Dimitri gets married to Annette, and they are king and queen of Fargus, and it's all good, and they rule the goodly over their kingdoms. Sylvain and Ingrid, I think they have their, like, I think Sylvain still is in his position of authority that he's supposed to be in, and Ingrid is ruling alongside of them, and they have a bunch of babies together, which is great. Who else? One thing that confused me about this route was so Dimitri's right-hand man is this guy named Dedu, who I mentioned as being a part of the tragedy of Dusker, and he has a bunch of baggage and trauma as well. But Dedu dies during the 5 years where Byleth is unconscious. And I feel like there's some way that I could have prevented that, because I know I've seen like endings where Dedue gets like an ending, and you are able to pair him with other people. So, like, I don't know what I did wrong, but Dedue died in my playthrough, so Dedue is dead. Dedue gets no happy ending. Mercedes did end up alone, and I don't care what she was doing. I didn't really read the thing, so it's all good. I don't care. And who did? Oh, Felix and Leonie, because they were like the other two favorites besides Ash. So, and they became Felix became Duke of his territory that he was in charge of, and then Leonie became like his most trusted mercenary, and they are drinking buddies as well. So that was fun. That was a nice ending. So yeah, they all get pretty nice endings, but also a lot of sad stuff happened before. So a little bit sad, but mostly good stuff. So yeah, on so I I did enjoy this route a lot as well. Even though it was super different, I obviously enjoyed it for different reasons than the Golden Deer. Which one I enjoyed more is not the answer that I thought I would have picked when I, started the game. Like, before I had finished both routes, I wouldn't have thought I would pick this, because just the Golden Deer as a group are way more like appealing to me than the Blue Lions, because they are a lot more just like fun character archetypes that I just like more in the Golden Deer, and as a unit they are so chaotic and kind of a cluster fumble, and I love that, and it's super fun to see. But in the end, I think I really liked the Blue Lions just story better, because just they're like way more connected to the events, and there's so much more personal stake going on. Like, the during the course of the story, you like Ash, like the stuff that you get to see and be involved in. Because like obviously the Golden Deer have some sad backstories and some connections to the stuff going around them, but stuff in the Blue Lions route that you get to see happen and be a part of happening. You have Ash's adopted dad dies, Sylvain's brother dies, Felix's dad dies. So like you have a lot more connected parts to these characters, and even though it ended a lot less happy than the Golden Deer, it was still more satisfying, I think, because of the way the characters were connected to the story. It was just really nice, and not maybe nice is not the right word, because it was so sad sometimes, but just a more well-rounded story, I guess. Um, and I ended up liking, as you got to see them in all the cutscenes and the supports and stuff. I ended up liking more characters from the Blue Lions than from the Golden Deer. I like Claude and Leonie more than the characters that I like from the Blue Lions, but there are more characters that I do like in the Blue Lions. So I really like how like Dimitri's whole story was great. I like Felix because, again, sarcasm and cool hair, but he also does kind of grow a little bit. He has trauma because his brother died again. I do like Sylvain. He has a whole thing, a whole like Argon story of his own, of course, and I will talk a lot more about characters in another episode, because I want to do a top 10 characters from this, but that I really do feel like I have to play through the Black Eagles route, because there's a whole like 20 other characters that I don't know at all. So I have to give them at least a little of a chance. But I'll talk about like character stuff a lot more in that kind of video. But in the end, I do think the Blue Lions route was a little more fulfilling. Even I do love the Golden Deer, and I was very satisfied with that. They were both really great, like both very satisfying and both awesome. Like, they didn't stop being an awesome game, either one of them. But Blue Lions, I think, wins out. So that is it. That's all I want to talk. That's all I wanted to talk about. I'll be doing a comparison, I guess, of the Black Eagles route and then the Church of Saros route later once I have beaten them. I just started the Black Eagles route, and I'm just like so worried because I already know what is coming, and I'm not even sure if I'm going to choose to stay with Edelgard or choose to go ahead and do the church, because I gotta do them both eventually, but I just there's a lot of anticipation that is like I just bleh. It's worrisome. Not it just Edelgard is a worrisome person basically, and right now she's like she just seems so normal, and it's a little scary. But I'll do a whole video on those two routes once I've beaten them, and yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sitting through a long one, as always. I talk long about the things that I really like, so there you go. Make sure to subscribe and follow and comment and share and like and do all of the things that you always do, I'm assuming, if you are a good little follower. And I will see you guys next time.